If you're not doing this, you could be leaving gains on the table. This can instantly increase protein synthesis and decrease protein breakdown. All you have to do is right before you take your protein, eat 30 to 80 grams of any high sugar food.
What's up guys, Derek, MyPlate28s.com. Today we're going to be revisiting the good old TikTok, the app that never stops giving back with high quality fitness and diet advice, training, PEDs, fucking everything under the sun. You can count on this app for quick tips, fire off fucking very quick 60-second game changing. I shouldn't be so harsh because there is good information on the app. It's just oftentimes I get tagged in the shit that sucks. So anyways, this was an interesting post. I was tagged in by a few people by The Real Baki. This is GymBroMike, quick growth hack. Hashtag gym talk, hashtag fitness, hashtag gym, hashtag FYP, hashtag viral, hashtag FYP with a sideways fucking happy face. How the fuck do you even create this? This is like, looks like he drew it with a pen on his fucking screen. Anyways, so here he says,
if you're not doing this, you could be leaving gains on the table. This can instantly increase protein synthesis and decrease protein breakdown.
Okay, so obviously it sounds pretty good off the bat. Anything that's going to both simultaneously improve protein accretion, offset protein degradation, is going to net you out a surplus and allow you to build new contractile tissue. Let's listen to what the fucking tip is.
All you have to do is right before you take your protein, eat 30 to 80 grams of any high sugar food. This will cause your insulin to spike, allowing more nutrients to rush to your muscles.
Okay, so quick one-off tip. He says, when you have your protein, make sure you have 30 to 80 grams of high sugar food to, let's listen again.
For workout tips and advice. If you're not doing this, you could be leaving gains on the table. This can instantly increase protein synthesis and decrease protein breakdown. All you have to do is right before you take your protein, eat 30 to 80 grams of any high sugar food. This will cause your insulin to spike.
Any high sugar food with your protein. So as if whey protein wasn't insulinogenic enough, we need to have a literal fucking like straight sugar mainlined into our system in order to enhance, nutrient partitioning. Blah, blah, blah. Adding more micronutrient deficient food to our diet model is of course necessary for maximizing muscle protein synthesis, according to this. So I'm not going to say this is bad advice all the time. If you're in a post-workout crunch and you need to get your muscle protein synthesis demands met and you have your whey protein, you slam some fucking gummy bears or whatever, like this is something I've seen tons of bodybuilders do. Does it work? Sure. Is this a blanket statement, generalized advice that could otherwise be very, very misinterpreted and applied far too broad spectrum to a diet that would otherwise just make you a fat fuck? Absolutely. Anytime you have protein throughout the day, if you add 30 to 80 grams of just straight fucking sugar, is this a good idea or is it just going to make you fat as fuck? And is it something that is a smart practice to do when it is otherwise the most micronutrient deficient way you could administer? You could ingest your carbohydrates, is there not a more balanced approach that could be getting in other things that are going to help with, the production of hormones, the things that are going to support physiologic processes rather than just mainlining straight fucking sugar? What do you think? Is this a good idea? Should you be, with every single meal you have protein? Surely if we just, add in some fucking, Jolly Ranchers and, gummy bears and Haribos and shit, suddenly we're going to get way more muscle growth, right? That's the thought process behind this, but it's not something you can just broad spectrum, slap a fucking recommendation on for every single intake. I almost say administration like it's a fucking drug every time of protein. And again, whey protein in itself, very, very insulinogenic. This is not something you need to always be having a fucking high sugar slam gummy bears with in order to get the effects you're trying to get out of it. This is, in general, a misinterpretation of literature, in my opinion, that is otherwise going to lead to micronutrient deficient diet models and people fucking getting fat, it's not necessarily a blanket statement that just broad spectrum applies for every single individual and every single application, every single individualized scenario of intaking whey protein or in general protein from, food sources. It sounds like advice that's being applied just like whenever you fucking intake protein, Add in this sugar, straight fucking sugar. Just slam some fucking table sugar. Why not? You know, some gummy bears, you know, those Haribo Coke bottles, the Haribo, you know, whatever it is, whatever your, you know, preferred source of straight goddamn shit sugar with no micronutrients whatsoever, add it in, you know, definitely going to enhance nutrient uptake and make you way more jacked. It's not going to work like that. Even bodybuilders on fucking gear, like you're probably just going to end up fat like this. You know, obviously, ultimately, it's going to come down to caloric intake relative to expenditure. But like, is this a good allocation of your calorie intake? No, this is, you know, subpar. This is like a time crunch scenario thing that is otherwise, like, frankly, the only time I would ever consider this kind of an application or combination of, if you can even call this food items, would be in a post-workout, peri-workout window. So anyways, checking out some of his other tips and shit. Let's see. Stop sleeping on this. How to get abs in a week. Stop hitting legs. Reviewing the king of all pre's. Okay, this looks like it's right up my alley. Let's see.
Here's an honest review on C4 pre-workout. Honestly, I don't know why this gets so much hate. C4 is literally one of, if not the best pre-workout on the market right now.
What the fuck?
Extremely high stem, crazy explosive energy, and this will give you one of the nastiest pumps you've ever had.
Okay, let's listen to that again. Fucking top comments. All BS. Crying, laughing face times 4. Don't get C4, guys. Good because it's cheap. Highly underdosed. Just read the ingredients. Bro, is creatine safe for a 14-year-old? My mom will get it because she thinks that it isn't safe. By keep crying, laughing face. Fucking classic. Dog, 2 skull emojis, literally crying. I thought it was you for real.
Here's an honest review on C4 pre-workout.
I can't even imagine sitting there and be like, you know, this is definitely worth the fucking provocative extra views to chuck my C4 bottle across the fucking room and have to clean it up after. God. Honestly,
I don't know why this gets so much hate. C4 is literally one of, if not the best pre-workout on the market right now. Extremely high.
Okay, so he says he doesn't know why it gets so much hate. It's the best pre-workout on the market. Like, I'm going to be honest, dude, if you don't know why it gets so much heat, like, I don't know if you should be giving much advice at all about pre-workouts, to be honest.
Them, crazy explosive energy, and this will give you one of the nastiest pumps you've ever had.
Okay, so let's go look at the actual ingredients breakdown. I'll, you know, lay out why I, you know, think it's not necessarily the best pre-workout on the market. Just objectively looking at it, here we are on the website. C4 Original. Now again, if you were going to say, I don't know why it gets so much heat as like a cost-effective alternative for like an intro kind of like cheap fucking Gen Pop appealing thing, okay, it's a bit of a different scenario. It's a bit of a different context there. But when you actually break it down, if you're saying this is the best pre-workout in general in the market, let's get into it. So the entire fucking breakdown at the beginning, essentially irrelevant. We have our vitamin C at 417%. Niacinamide, B6, folic acid. Like, of course, we want synthetic folic acid, not methylfolate. We want this shit in our pre-workout because it's relevant to begin with pre-workout scenario, as well as the fact that this is the optimal form to be taking in, as we all fucking know. Vitamin B12, 583%. Calcium, 2%. Okay, now that we've got, this necessary part out of the way, carnosine beta-alanine. So we have, the tried and true carnosine derivative that is going to enhance endurance at, adequate dosages. Given that you're taking it, chronically enough and you're taking in a satisfactory amount, is 1.6 grams the efficacious dose? No, we're looking at least 3.2 to 6.4 grams per day. Chronically, this is not something you're going to get an acute exposure benefit from at, 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams. That's going to be so significant, it's going to justify the butthole paresthesia, in my opinion. But again, that's the topped out ingredient in this formula. This is the driving force of it in terms of the, vectors of performance in the gym. Not a bad ingredient, depending on what you think about butthole itches, but at this dosage burden too, is it really doing anything significant? Probably not. Creatine nitrate, we have 1 gram, which is going to yield some amount of nitrates. Is it going to be, maxed out for vasodilation? Not really. This is why you have arginine AKG on top, which combination with one another will have a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of effect with vasodilation. Again, though, these are my, preferred formats as far as, having a bound nitrate as well as a arginine AKG as your primary source of yielding sufficient arginine in the body, which paradoxically is not something you can just orally administer arginine to get a high yield of. To me, You guys probably know Arginine AKG is not my favorite at this point, and is this an efficacious dose? Like, we saw a better dose in the Flex Wheeler pre-workout that entered the tribunal of sauna of dismantling recently. This is not an ideal dosage, but again, cumulatively with the nitrate yield from this creatine nitrate, could it be sufficient enough to get, some extra pump? Possibly. This is a bit of a more anecdotal ingredient that does not seem to really hold up in the literature as well as other tried and true precursors that we've seen. Obviously, nitrates work. There's no argument on that. But in general, like the yield of this relative to, the supposed efficacy of this in combination with one another, like obviously this could be pushed a little bit harder for people who are trying to get the best pre-workout on the market. Not exactly the best thing out there. Creatine at a sub-efficacious dose doing essentially nothing for anybody. Explosive energy blend. So now we look at the cognitive performance outcomes here. We have N-acetyl L-tyrosine, the suboptimal form of L-tyrosine that does not equate to any increase in serum concentrations in the body of actual L-tyrosine, even through a fucking intravenous administration. This is the suboptimal format that is supposed to be, more water soluble and supposed to be so much better, but in practical application does not actually really equate to any sort of pharmacologic effect that we'd be hoping to get out of this neurotransmitter precursor, and ultimately has been significantly edged out by the L-tyrosine base alternative, which actually does something. Caffeine anhydrous, 150 milligrams, is that good enough? I don't know. Depends who you are. Like for some people, that's low as fuck, given that this is based on their full spectrum. Like this is the full dose. This is not, a 2-scooper that you're going to have their formula divided into 40 servings and 20 servings or something. Like this is the fucking topped out dose you're getting, unless you want to push the envelope and, use 1.5 to 2 scoops, getting 150 milligrams, which is, again, I think really shows how clear as day this is like a daily driver, like Gen Pop appealing, cheap, entry-level pre, and it is not supposed to be, the turnkey pinnacle fucking maxed out formula. They are trying to make margins on this product. They are trying to make it as cost-effective and as easy of an entry point for the Gen Pop, pre-workout inept individual. And that's why it's pretty, benign in its dosages, in my opinion, as well as the overall, cost to make this shit. So caffeine anhydrous, 150 milligrams. Like, will you feel it? Maybe, depending on how, stimulant tolerant you are. Does it work? Yeah. Velvet bean, mucuna, pruriens, seed extract. We have our, dopamine precursor here at a undisclosed dosage because, again, we have a prop blend here. We don't fucking know exactly what's in here. All we do know is that the dosage is less than 150 milligrams. So that means our T-cream dose must be at like 50 to 100 milligrams at most or some shit. T-cream, is this something that, cumulatively used concurrently with caffeine is going to have an additive effect? At this dosage, I would argue no. T-cream is not that potent of a stimulant ingredient. It has the benefit of not having any tolerance buildup, which is nice, and it is, pretty well tolerated, and it's also, generally recognized as safe, and it's a pretty, well regarded ingredient for its, safety profile and can be useful. But again, is it, something that you're going to really move the needle with in a stimulatory aspect? To me, not really. Like the cognitive effects of it are so mediocre that I actually removed it from Gorilla Mind Smooth. It was not worth the additional burden of capsule space when I could otherwise swap it out with more, useful cholinergics, or if I was using a pre-workout, using more effective stimulatory ingredients and cognitive enhancing elements that kind of get you locked in and focused more. Like to me, this is a very, very mild ingredient that does not really move the needle in any significant capacity at this dose. So ultimately, this formula has things that could be swapped in and out to be more efficacious, even at the same dosage burden. The dosages chosen for the main vectors of performance are severely underdosed, like a creatine dose at like fucking 1 gram. And when you actually factor in how much yield of nitrate relative to creatine this is, like again, are you getting anywhere near to an amount that replaces your daily creatine needs? Like not really at all. Are they trying to do that, or are they just trying to find a way to, administer nitrates? Obviously, it's up for interpretation. The NO precursor vector could be, pushed a little bit harder in my opinion too. The energy blend, a suboptimal choice as far as the NALT instead of just a straight L-tyrosine. Caffeine, relatively benign dose. It's gonna work, but it's not crazy. And then the, wrapping up the prop blend with a velvet bean and a low dose of tea cream. Like, to me, this is not the best pre-workout. Even the most budget-friendly one, like, I think there are better options for $29.99 entry price point, to be honest. Does it have the name, reinforcing its credibility? Does it have, a fancy, nice-looking fucking bottle? Does it have a shit ton of reviews? Is it gonna work? Yeah, it's not the worst pre-workout in the world, obviously. But again, to make a statement as bold as, like, you don't know why it gets, a bad rap, and you think it's, one of the best pre-workouts on the market, or it is the best pre-workout on the market, I would really say take a fucking second look, bro, because, like, I really don't see it. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me listen again, see exactly what he said.
Here's an honest review on C4 pre-workout. Honestly, I don't know why this gets so much hate. C4 is literally one of, if not the best pre-workout on the market right now. Extremely high stem, crazy explosive energy, and
so it's not high stim at all. Like, this is low stim as fuck.
this will give you one of the nastiest pumps you've ever had.
No, this won't give you nasty pumps either, bro. Like, again, this is everything, like, at the most easy amount and potentially suboptimal choices of those ways to administer the precursors in those vectors. So if you have intramuscular hyperhydration, if you're addressing, NO precursors, if you're addressing, CNS, if you're addressing stimulatory, any of this kind of shit, it's like subpar in like pretty much every area, to be honest. So no, it's not known for giving nasty pumps. It's not known for being high stim. It's known for being gen pop appealing, mass marketed, nice to look at, good brand name credibility, not for actually being, the turnkey, efficacious fucking max out formula that you're suggesting it is. So no, in my opinion, it's not. And I would really, maybe you might want to clarify that you shouldn't be having fucking gummy bears with every single administration of protein, bro. So anyways, that's my thoughts on GymBroMike with the quick growth hacks and the pre-workout reviews. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplaysfordates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplaysfordates, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. Get high quality oversight from doctors who understand how to interpret biomarkers, what kind of diagnostics to order you in the first place, and stay on top of your health regardless if you're natural or, enhanced, or a guy currently on HRT, whatever it is. Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode pre-workout formulas, designed myself from scratch, recommended diet model for gaining muscle and maximizing sports performance whilst being mindful of micronutrient intake, something that is neglected when you would take fucking gummy bears with every single protein intake. And anything else I'm associated with, it is all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.